The Simpsons was one of the funniest animated shows to ever hit the air, and then also aired for another 20 years after that. It's one of my all-time favorite shows, and aside from countless phrases and pop culture moments burned into our brain, it's also infamous for its habit of eerily predicting the future. Well, let's take a trip down Evergreen Terrace for the top 5 terrifying Simpsons predictions that came true. And you know what, just for fun, let me know down below what your all-time favorite Simpsons episode is. Mine's probably You Only Move Twice, or Homer Goes to Clown College. Okay, we gotta start the video or I'll do this all day. Number 5, President Trump. This is probably the most famous prediction attributed to America's favorite family, and you gotta admit it's a little bit kooky, so let's just get it right out of the way so we can do the rest of the video. In the season 11 episode, Bart to the Future, we get a glimpse into one of the many possible future timelines for the Simpsons family. It's a pretty good episode. The family has a picnic disturbed and stops off at a nearby casino. Bart sneaks on in and is caught by the manager, who wants to show him a vision of his future if he keeps up his nefarious ways. It's pretty depressing. Bart grows up to be a loser slacker who's roommates with Ralph, and Lisa grows up to be president of the United States. And she's doing a pretty good job, managing with all the troubles left behind from President Trump. Wait, when did this episode air? 2000? 2000, okay, oof. Now obviously this episode gained a ton of notoriety and popularity after 2016, and I wonder why. All because of a throwaway joke. Obviously the creative team had to speak out on this one. Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons, said that he never thought he'd actually become president. Dan Greeny, writer for the show and the writer of that joke in question, offered this in an interview saying, "It just seemed like the logical last stop before hitting bottom. It was pitched because it was consistent with the vision of America going insane." No comments. This prediction even gets referenced much later on in the series. An episode from season 28, airing 4 days after the inauguration, has Bart writing on the chalkboard, "It sucks being right sometimes," obviously alluding to the controversial president's election. Now you've probably seen an image passed around the net too of Trump descending an elevator looking exactly like a real picture of the 45th. Well, the Simpsons are good, but they're not that good. Now the first joke we mentioned is from 2000, but that picture that you've probably seen an uncle share on Facebook all the time is from a digital webisode from 2015, around the time the campaign was happening. So they only predicted it the once. And that's probably enough. Now if you're a big Top 5 Scary fan, you know I love predictions, all the greats. Nostradamus, Baba Vanga, Homer Simpson. And I predict that you'll keep subscribing for scary videos hot and fresh every day. Let's keep on going. Number 4, Disney buying Fox. Well, maybe this one is only terrifying if you're afraid of corporate conglomerates. In the 1998 episode, When You Dish Upon a Star, through a series of contrivances, Homer crashes through the window of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, and ends up becoming friends with the stars, rubbing elbows with a few Hollywood alums, including Ron Howard, beloved Hollywood director and narrator from Arrested Development. Over the course of the episode, Homer desperately tries to get Ron to produce his screenplay, a masterpiece about a scary robot driving instructor that travels through time for some reason or another, and a talking pie that's the robot's best friend. Now all this is a bit of a preamble because the prediction comes right at the end of the episode, in a blink and you'll miss a joke. When Ron Howard does end up pitching Homer's script, we see a sign on the 20th Century Fox building that says a subdivision of the Walt Disney Company, a full 21 years before Fox would be absorbed into Disney. Now showrunner Al Jean tried to downplay this. When someone asked him about it, he said, "Predictions? I predict that people will make far too much of that mere coincidence." Which I guess he is, right? Because here I am, talking about it now to you. But if he predicted that, and he's right about that, then is he trying to downplay the other predictions? How did you know, Mr. Gene? Did a wizard do it? Now on another note, I think this is kind of funny, but if you want to watch The Simpsons online, you have to go to Disney Plus, since that's where the entire series is streaming. And on Disney Plus, there's a subcategory called Simpsons Predicts, which was very helpful for this episode. It's a playlist of all the episodes attributed to have a little soothsaying. All the episodes I mentioned are going to be on that list if you want to brush up after the video, including When You Dish Upon a Star. I think it's kind of a funny coincidence that they include an episode based on a 1-second frame predicting that Disney will buy Simpsons on their collection of things Simpsons predicted on their Disney website. Okay, I'm rambling like I'm Abe Simpson. Number 3, Tomacco. Now like I was saying, I wore an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. Oh, sorry, I'm still rambling. Our next prediction from The Simpsons is kind of a cheat because the person in question was directly inspired by the episode, but the context is terrifying and hilarious enough. In the season 11 episode, E.I.E.I. Annoyed Grunt, After becoming obsessed with the concept of dueling, Homer goes around challenging just about everyone in Springfield until he crosses the rich Texan, who actually accepts Homer's duel. Terrified, he flees to his childhood farmstead and decides to begin life anew as a rural farmer. But after having some trouble growing anything, he asks Lenny and Carl for a little plutonium, and he kickstarts a crop he calls Tomacco, a rancid combination of tobacco and tomatoes. Now the joke here obviously is that is disgusting and no one in their right mind would ever want to eat that, but never underestimate a dedicated fan base, because in 2003, scientist Rob Barr wanted to grow his own Tomacco, and the absolute madman actually did it. He claims what he initially grew he thinks would have been completely inedible and lethal for humans to eat. Why did he do this? Well, the answer is honestly a lot more earnest than you might think. He's just a massive fan of The Simpsons, and this episode was one of his all-time favorites. He loved the anti-smoking message, and he was curious if a dumb pun was possible to grow into a real plant, and it totally was. He even sent off one of his Tomacco plants to the writing team responsible for the episode, and as a reward, he was even brought on to do DVD commentary of the episode after growing it, elevating himself to Simpsons superfan status. And I cannot imagine that they tasted good. Number 2, the NSA and Tom Hanks a little bit. Okay, take your brain back to 2007. Remember the Simpsons movie? Absolute classic. Basically, just 2 hours of The Simpsons on fire. Some of the best jokes they've ever had, taking the show we love to its biggest extremes. After Springfield's toxic waste problem becomes too much to bear on the rest of the country, President Schwarzenegger, and don't worry, that's not the prediction, decides that the best solution is to place a big glass dome over the city of Springfield to contain the problem. The Simpsons escape and find themselves on the run. Now, funny enough, in this scene, Bart takes a dig at Disney, wearing a bra on his head to look like Mickey Mouse, and saying he's the symbol of an evil corporate overlord. If only he knew. Marge is talking to Lisa about how they need to get to Seattle to tell everyone of the plot to destroy Springfield, and Lisa shushes her mom, warning her not to speak so loudly because people could be listening in. Well, Marge reassures her that no one is listening, until it's revealed that a dummy conductor has been listening and broadcasting the entire conversation to the NSA. Now, government surveillance was already a pretty popular conspiracy around the time the movie was made, but after the revelations of 2013, when it came out that the NSA was in fact doing that exact thing on the general population, a funny joke now seems prophetic. There's another prediction in the Simpsons movie that matches up pretty amusingly well with our real world. Near the end of the film, Tom Hanks films a promotional video for the US government and says, "The US government has lost its credibility, so it's borrowing some of mine." Pretty funny joke featuring America's dad. But then, in 2022, this basically happened like for actual real, when the current administration ran an anniversary campaign ad featuring Tom Hanks narrating the events of the first year of the Biden administration. Everyone raced to Twitter to comment that, yep, Simpsons did it first. The Simpsons had hit the nail on the head once again. Number 1, Siegfried and Roy. Now, some of our younger viewers might not even have any idea who these guys are. Maybe you're like me and you kinda know who they are through pop culture osmosis more than you do as real icons. Most specifically, The Simpsons. The season 5 episode, Springfield with a $, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, centers around Mr. Burns' plan to dominate Springfield's wharf after the town legalizes gambling in a way to revitalize its economy. It's probably a top 5 episode for me. There's just so many good bits in this one. From Homer singing about Marge's gambling demon to Mr. Burns going all Howard Hughes with the Spruce Moose and Homer's hilariously bad Florida costume for Lisa, and the Siegfried and Roy parody, Gunther and Ernst. The pair of German performers are a clear-as-day stand-in for Siegfried and Roy, the famous Las Vegas big cat performing duo. Now, in the episode, Gunther and Ernst joke that their tiger, Anastasia, loves her new life in show business compared to the wilds of the jungle. And we get a quick flash cut to Anastasia sleeping happily before she's apprehended by the duo. The scene cuts back and Anastasia sicks herself on the duo, tearing them apart. It was a pretty quick throwaway joke at the expense of 2 very minor Simpsons side characters, but in 2003 it became unfortunately tragic when an extremely similar incident would happen to the real-life inspiration. During a show, a tiger manticore attacked Roy critically, leaving him with a stroke and unable to ever perform again. No word on if the real duo ever saw the Simpsons episode. Now, the writing team for the episode commented on the unfortunate coincidence, saying they had no idea that it would ever actually happen, but stated that it was bound to happen eventually. As it stands, it's now a bit of a lip-biting moment in an otherwise absolutely classic episode. Well, that's it for this video, my little ghouls and goblins. Creep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one.